This is the battle of flagship from last year, the Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition and Google Pixel 7. Who will win? Let's find out. Let's talk about color profile and saturation, and both of these phones are representing their brand identity pretty well. Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition and most of the 2022 series are on the warmer side, colors are vivid, and they tend to be brighter, sometimes crushing the highlights. While Pixel 7 is more natural looking, the white balance is on the neutral side, and the highlights are controlled really well. You wouldn't see blownouts on any parts of the image. Looking quickly at this specification, Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition is the older 12-megapixel main, 8-megapixel telephoto, and 12-megapixel ultra-wide. There's not much of a heavy numbers in terms of the megapixel, but all S21 more or less have the same configuration. What I like about the S21 FE is the 3x optical zoom, which S21 doesn't have, and it also has a 32-megapixel selfie that can shoot 4K up to 60 FPS. The only problem with this model is it doesn't shoot 8K, which the regular S21 has. Well, Pixel 7 has the updated 50-megapixel sensor with multi-directional face detection autofocus and OIS, same as what we have on the S21 FE and 12-megapixel ultra-wide. It only has a 10.8-megapixel selfie camera, but again, like S21 FE, Pixel 7 can shoot 4K up to 60 FPS. The only downside of the regular Pixel is it doesn't have the optical zoom, so you're stuck with a digital crop, and obviously S21 Fan Edition will have a longer reach. But again, megapixel is not everything, so we will test both phones in terms of details and quality. And checking all sensors from the ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto, colors are consistent. The quality of the optical zoom of S21 might be a little better than the 2x digital crop of Pixel 7. This is the audio test of Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition. Check 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3. And this is the audio of Pixel 7 with speech enhancement on. Check 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3. This is the super steady mode on S21 Fan Edition and active mode on Pixel 7, and both of these phones are shooting full HD 30 FPS. Now let's go to the slow motion test, and this is slow motion or 1/4. And this is the super slow motion or 1/8, and Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition is just freezing the time. Let's check the flaring, and both of these phones are good if you point them on the sun. I think Pixel 7 will give you better sun rays than S21 FE, but on a darker situation where you point the smartphone directly on the light, Pixel 7 has this linear flaring. Managing the highlights is one of the strengths of Pixel 7 because of the HDR shot, and it's evident on this photo. If you punch in, you will see that there's more information on the monitor screen on Pixel 7 than S21 FE. One of the biggest difference on these two phones is the close-up shot, because S21 FE, although it doesn't have a macro sensor, the main sensor has close focus range, so you would see that it focuses closer on the subject. Exposure and dynamic range are almost the same for both phones, maybe a little bit brighter on S21 FE. On darker areas on the images, both of them will do well. In terms of sharpness, starting with the ultra-wide lens, I think Pixel 7 has more details than S21 Fan Edition. The main sensor looks the same, but if you shoot on a 3x optical zoom and 2x digital crop of Pixel 7, I think because of the 50-megapixel main sensor, even though you cropped in a little bit, you will still get the same amount of sharpness. And if you do the digital crop, S21 Fan Edition can do 30 times as opposed to only 8 times of Pixel 7. And lastly, checking on the details, the 12-megapixel sensor of Galaxy S21 FE is good enough, but you can see that there's more details on the 50-megapixel sensor of Pixel 7. It uses pixel binning to output 12-megapixel image. We're done with the color and video differences, including slow motion. Now let's talk about the video stabilization in 4K 30 FPS using the ultra-wide wide. We're also testing the optical zoom and digital crop of Pixel 7. If you want to check out the portrait mode and night shots of these two phones, you can fast forward the video, and I will leave the timestamp on the description below. Let's start the video stabilization test using the ultra-wide sensor, and both of these phones are doing really well, just a difference in white balance. This is the main sensor battle again, 4K 30 FPS, and I think Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition is a little wobbly while running. And lastly, this is the optical zoom and digital crop of these two phones. And the optical zoom of S21 FE is shaky, while Pixel 7's digital crop is very stable. Moving to the selfie camera, both phones can shoot 4K 30 and 60 FPS, but the stabilization on Pixel 7 is so much better than Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, and it manages the flaring better. Both of these phones were released last year. The Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition was released around January, and Pixel 7 around October. Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition specs are still great even this year with Snapdragon 888 or Exynos 2100 in some regions with 6 to 8 gigs of RAM. Performance may vary depending on the chip. It also has the beefy 4500 miliampere battery that can go full day of use. It also supports Samsung DeX, which a lot of Samsung mid-range phones lack. While Pixel 7 is a bit newer than Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, all Pixel 7 phones got Tensor chip Gen 2 and 8 gigs of RAM, so there's no difference in terms of configuration, only storage option either 128 or 256 gigs of storage. It has a smaller 4355 milliampere battery, but on some online battery tests, Pixel 7 is slightly better than S21 FE. On News Market, you may find these two phones on a similar price, but the question today here is, who do you think is better? Let's talk about portrait mode, and both of these phones are on their top of their game. If you like to shoot portrait images, any of these two phones will do well. The first thing that stands out for me is the color again. It's more natural looking on Pixel 7 than Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition. The portrait mode on S21 Fan Edition is brighter than Pixel 7. It also has some more vivid colors, and the skin tone has whitening skin effect. Also, because of this filter, you will see that my skin is less sharper than what we have on the Pixel. My biggest disappointment with S21 FE is the subject separation or cutout. That's probably one of the weaknesses of the portrait mode of S21 FE. You would see inconsistent cutout on the portrait mode. The background blur is also not as shallow as the one you can see on the Google Pixel, but overall, if you're just looking on a smaller screen like your phone, you probably wouldn't know the difference. While Pixel 7 has a more natural looking tone bordering to boredom sometimes, and in situations where you're in direct sunlight, you will find that your skin is a little bit yellowish on Pixel 7. But there are more details on my face, and I noticed that the portrait mode on Pixel 7 highlights my facial features, gives a little bit of whitening glow on my face. The cutout is a bit better on Pixel 7, maybe because of the newer technology, and the background blur is shallower as well. And overall, I think Pixel 7 is more consistent than S21 FE. And going to the selfie camera, both of these phones can shoot ultra-wide and wide shots. So if you need to shoot selfie with a group, you can do this on both of these phones. Night shots are also decent on both phones. I couldn't say that these are the best night shots you will get on a smartphone, but they would consistently give you good-looking low-light images. Samsung Galaxy S21 tends to brighten up the image, but more on a greenish tint. It also controls the flaring better, but I noticed on some areas where there's lacking of light source, you will see that S21 Fan Edition has softer images. While Pixel 7 I think is more superior than S21 FE, it has a more natural looking colors, although flaring is stronger on this phone, but on darker situations where there's a lack of light source, Pixel 7 will still provide you a sharper image. And just overall, from the ultra-wide to the main sensor, I think software-wise, Pixel 7 is better than the older Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition. And lastly, the low-light video. Do you want a brighter but noisier output of S21 Fan Edition, or less noisy but darker Pixel 7?
Control. Creation. I might do that again, but fuck it.
So this is the ultimate camera shootout of Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition and Pixel 7. Great camera phones of 2022 that still performs really well this year. Obviously, Samsung Galaxy S21 Fan Edition trumps on performance with Snapdragon 888. The color science is the same as what we have on the Samsung phones of 2022. It has a good slow motion and brighter night shots. While I think Pixel 7 wins this camera comparison, it has better video stabilization, a little bit better on portrait, and sharper night shots. But based from this test, you can't go wrong with any of these phones. Based from its value, I think you will love them. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to compare these two phones in our channel, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.